Oh, look! It's George Soros' son, looking like he's mocking the crucifix. What? Huh. A very interesting gesture there, as of course his pops and him might soon end up in jail. What in the world's going on here? As of course, just a few months ago, you couldn't talk about this man in any way, shape, or form, especially as an independent media analyst, because you would get censored and accused of hating a whole group of people. In reality, we were saying, hey, this guy has a lot of connections, has a lot of big money that is connected to not just left-wing influencers that are probably going to be left reeling from all of this. As of course, I think a lot of this also relates to Arabella. But more importantly, there's a reason why the guy who broke the Bank of England, the guy who has been banned with his organization from multiple countries now, is someone that is being targeted by Donald Trump here, as a lot of people are warning, oh no, the whole entire infrastructure of the left is going to be left in ruin, which some people are saying, great. You know, if your whole infrastructure is based on a sociopathic billionaire, maybe you're not worth being as prominent as you particularly are. As of course, now the conversation will turn into what will happen next year. I have a couple criticisms of George Soros, as you can see here, but also of the handling of all of this, in my personal opinion, which I think could be done a little bit better. I'll get into that and a lot more all in this particular video. If you like these type of conversations, subscribe, click the notification button. As of course, let's just get right into it. As George Soros is known as one of the most successful and influential investors in history. He's known for a lot of his, quote, political activities that really are codifying what I would say are some of the most wokest, deranged type of destructive policies, in my own personal opinion, that have spurred on a lot of urban decay, a lot of destruction, a lot of reductive conversations that have been absolutely destructive towards America, Western values, and our constitutional rights. Now, George Soros is actually someone that Donald Trump is calling to face federal charges. Now, listen, this is not the way that I would handle it. All right? Clearly, George Soros connected to a lot of very powerful people, connected to a lot of very important organizations and institutions that have been pushing up against Donald Trump, against the idea of populism, against the ideas of nationalism, against the ideas of being someone who is proud to be an American and respects American core values and conservatism, essentially here. Now, I don't even want to get into the whole stuff, what he did during the 1930s. We can. The guy's 95 years old. His son is pretty much running the show now. And there's a lot of criticism against his son that just got married with Huma Abedin, the former congressman of Anthony Weiner's, who had a very interesting laptop situation unfold with him, as she was known as Hillary Clinton's right-hand woman. And of course, this is the alliance that some people are even going as far as to say has been prearranged for this billionaire's dynasty to continue under their reign of leftist political power broking and puppeteering. Now, Donald Trump's comments here are pretty bombastic here. But I would just say, listen, if you're going to do it. Stop hinting at it. Stop saying they should. Do it. Because this is the way that you actually deal with what I would call interference against right-wing political doctrine. Now, Trump's targeting of this here, even MSNBC says, yeah, this is going to affect the whole left's infrastructure. The whole left infrastructure has been propped up by a lot of billionaires that are, in my opinion, sowing chaos and division in our society deliberately in order to try to break it down and destroy it from within. Because there's no other way to classify their policies that have been so reductive, so nasty. You can't classify them any other way but to argue that they have led to what a lot of people believe to be the decline of the empire. Now, Russia just banned George Soros' foundation, as they called it a, quote, state security threat. It looks like Donald Trump is treating it the same way, as he just made a very eye-opening post that just brought him and Elon Musk together, which is strange because Elon Musk was the billionaire that used to be his bestie. Now Elon brought up the Epstein list, and it got really awkward. But now it looks like Elon and Donald Trump are on the same page, specifically when it comes to dealing with George Soros, as Donald Trump went on Truth Social and released this message saying George Soros and his wonderful radical left son should be charged with RICO because of their support of violent protest and much more. Now, this is just on the heels of Arabella, which is another kind of organization that Donald Trump is hinting at there being clear illegal actions. Now, before reading the rest of this statement, before going on and talking about a very big deal in our political system that's going to be affecting a lot of the left-wing media class, which, by the way, is being propped up by billionaires that censor their competition and finance them, and still we're dominating and taking their lunch. That's the fascinating part of all this. Before talking about all that, we wanted to tell you about thebestpoliticalshorts.com because, listen, we were previously banned. We were demonetized. Why? Because we refused to stop talking about individuals like George Soros. We said George Soros, YouTube was like, oh, we got to delete your video. And for a certain period of time, you couldn't even talk about George Soros. We still continued. We got hit. I was like, we got demonetized. We got demonetized twice. Okay, twice. Major hit against our finances. First time around, I'm like, man, how am I going to survive? I was making okay money, not that much. I was like, how am I going to survive? I was like, they're destroying my messaging. They're downranking me in the algorithm. They just demonetized me. How am I going to survive? I was like, I'm going to open up a t-shirt store. And that's what I did. Second time around, they banned the t-shirt store. We got to back up eventually. We got to back up because, we're persistent. I'm a Slavic man. I'm stubborn. Extremely. And that's why I launched shirts like the one that I'm wearing right now that says, trust me. Highlighting Bill Gates, another Democratic billionaire that, by the way, just was meeting with Donald Trump. That was strange. Why was he meeting with him? All of as he just pulled his funding from Arabella that allegedly is being tied to left-wing radical leftist violence. But again, there's a lot of crazy people out there, but it's pretty clear we're fighting the battle of ideas. There's a lot of people gaslighting. There's a lot of people lying. There's a lot of billionaires financing the left-wing media side, and there's a reason they can't meme. There's a reason they can't hold arguments. There's a reason they can't debate. They don't want to debate. They don't want to have conversations because a lot of their ideas are just propped up and fake. And that's why I decided to put ideas that are a little autistic, a little ridiculous, a little offensive on t-shirts. And I decided to sell them at a reasonable price. As we have, this was some of these shirts again. This one right here, I really like this one. We have a bunch of them that are pretty thought-provoking. Listen, you want to find your tribe? You want to find the people in your life that will actually stand behind you and are just as vocal. This is the way to do your own lazy form of activism, but also build your community, build your friendships, build a community of people that are just like you. This is one of my favorite ones. Pro-peace, pro-freedom, pro-family, pro-self-ownership. And, when you have messages like this, and then you're able to culture jam, and you're able to send them out there to the general public, they can't censor these ideas. And that's why I decided to do a t-shirt store when they censored me, as they were censoring people for talking about George Soros. And then they were giving the left-toid YouTubers the advantage over us, and they were promoting them. Like, oh, look at the corporate media. Look at the left-toid media. So when it comes to dark money groups that are now finally being called out here, a lot of them have been financing a lot of these type of leftist YouTubers. And now these leftist YouTubers, their sugar daddy is going away, or is going to be investigated, or is at least going to be, of course, taking a step back from posting and charging here. As this is what Donald Trump said. And we'll continue this. Quote, George Soros and his wonderful radical leftist son should be charged with RICO because of their support of violent protest and much more. What else did they do? That's interesting. I want to know about this. All throughout the United States of America, we're not going to allow these lunatics to rip apart America anymore. never giving it so much as a chance to breathe and be free. Soros and his group of psychopaths have caused great damage to our country. That includes his crazy West Coast friends. He's talking about Silicon Valley, Mark Zuckerberg, and all these other tech executives, Bill Gates, West Coast. Be careful. We're watching you. Thank you for your attention to this matter. As Elon Musk responded to this saying, high time action was taken against Soros directly. Yeah. As Alex Jones just posted this on social media saying, "We united, we stand." Elon Musk says he stands with President Trump in calling for the immediate arrest of George Soros. Yes. Now listen, if this was happening, this is the bad news. This is the bad news. If this was really happening, they would have just done it. They would have had the secret grand jury indictments. They would have had the charges. They would have had an announcement. They would have raided his home. Releasing the statement just has George Soros lawyering up, and you have him destroying evidence right now. You're essentially giving him like, hey, you're kind of just representing justice instead of actually carrying out justice, which I would say I would be a little bit critical of. Get the job done. Why aren't you doing this? I like that you're talking about it, but you're the president of the United States. You have the ability to act. Why aren't you acting on this? Now, the level of left-wing media domination and control that we have seen that still failed to reach the epitome of alternative, kind of more right-wing leading anti-authoritarian. Because when we look at a lot of these left things, they're pro-authoritarian, they're pro-government, they're pro-big government stepping into your life and allegedly fixing your problem, which they never do. Big government is the biggest scam, as well as the IRS. Now, Donald Trump saying that there should be charges here doesn't mean there will be. But there should be. I agree. Do it. As warning the progressive billionaires that we're, quote, watching you. I mean, what is this meant to do? It's meant to, I think, put them on notice. Like, hey, guys, we see what you're doing, and we're going to hold you accountable. It seems like a threat, more than anything. Let's just be honest. Let's call a spade here. It seems like a threat here that has not yet manifested in any type of legitimate action. Now, this type of action, if it would happen, would bankrupt vast majority of the left-wing infrastructure media space, but also a lot of the kind of leftist liberal organizations out there that are purely the kind of puppeteers of the billionaire class, which is hilarious because they always kind of argue, oh, we got to fight the billionaires. Just not the billionaires that bankroll us and support us. As now, Fox News is reporting George Soros, beta our work behind fundings for Democrats fleeing Texas over GOP congressional map. The Democrat state lawmakers face fines and possible removal from office. As of course, there was a big showdown in Texas about redistricting. And instead of going with these type of democratic political procedures, the Democrats just fled the state in order to prevent the GOP from being able to vote on a new congressional map, because that's the way that their local legislation works. They can't vote if they don't have representatives there. And then the representative just fled. And now we're finding out that they were backed by super PACs that was funding nationally in order to, of course, create an agenda. Because the left does this all the time. The left changes their districts all the time to be more favorable to them. They did this against Dennis Kucinich and Cynthia McKinney, in a way, former members of Congress, so they could kick them out. And when we look at these left-wing, dark, mega donors, we got to understand, the New York Post is also reporting that they're the ones financing the protest against Trump's D.C. crime crackdown. As they're saying, quote, several lefty dark money organizations, including George Soros, contributed more than $20 million to groups funding protests against Donald Trump's crime crackdown in Washington, D.C. Wait until you learn about their BLM funding that led to tremendous amounts of American cities being burnt down and 3,000 individuals that have lost their lives. all under the Trump administration, as a lot of people are saying there's going to be more chaos ahead of us. But now, if Donald Trump is able to actually address the funding and stop this type of usurping, stop this type of attack against him through the billionaire class, he is able to, of course, stop a lot of the chaos, which a lot of people have been predicting would be happening here. That is all kind of financed by these very powerful people. Now, there still probably will be some protests. Let's not kid ourselves. But the levels of organizing them, levels of people that show up to them, the level of marketing, the level of money that the billionaire class will be throwing to them will be significantly impacted just by these statements alone. And some people are arguing this is the way that Donald Trump is preventing more chaos from unfolding inside of the United States here. Now, George Soros here, a lot of people say, built an empire of chaos. Now his son, Alexander, quote, inherits the throne, writes the final Telegraph here. Now, when it comes to George Soros, a lot of people are calling it the largest, most sophisticated criminal organization in modern history. Quote, we have the evidence, we have the law. It's called RICO. Here is the 24-part indictment the DOJ is too cowardly to bring. This is according to, again, at Financial Telegraph here. And again, RICO, racketeering, criminal cases here. George Soros' son, by the way, loves his selfies with all these very powerful people. As we look at the work that the Open Society Foundation has done here, and it is what a lot of people say is, quote, sophisticated money laundering. That's, in my opinion, what was happening with the Clinton Global Initiative. And when we look at a lot of this stuff, when it comes to these kind of endowments, a lot of this money being kind of moved around here, it is the way it just changes hands here is just absolutely wild. And of course, a lot of people point to $220 million given to radical justice. By the way, a lot of this money was financed and funneled through you, and you being the taxpayer, that USAID sucked out and then just gave back to George Soros and Bill Gates and all these other individuals. Now, before getting into this here, Alex Soros, just by the way, posted, winning elections is the only curb against strongmen, as he talked about this article by the Financial Times here. There's a lot of people responding to him. See you in jail soon, buddy. As the Open Society Foundation responded to Donald Trump, and it's important to give everyone their fair shake here. So it's important to give everyone their side of the story here, as they openly wrote, quote, the Open Society Foundations founded by George Soros and chaired by Alex Soros do not support or fund violent protests. Allegations to the contrary are false, and the threats against our founders and chair are outrageous. Our mission is to advance human rights, justice, and democratic principles in the United States and around the world. We stand for fundamental freedom guaranteed by the U.S. Constitution, including the rights to free speech and peaceful protest that are hallmarks of our vibrant democracy. And we have a lot of people responding here saying, false! Reality check here. Listen, this is their statement. This is what they had to say here. The first comment here by Isabel Cuervo saying, false. Not only do you sponsor and finance protests, but you also operate a highly organized network of NGOs around the world to destabilize democracies and rule of law under the guise of social work promoting human rights. Listen, being more on the kind of right-wing spectrum, I'm more aligned with this type of criticism, to be quite honest with you. Now, exactly what's happening here? Investigate them. Investigate them immediately. Let's go. Grand jury indictments. Let's go find out what they're doing. Let's find out where their money went. And let's see. And I think what we're going to see is a lot of the top money given from George Soros, given out to different organizations. Those organizations give it to other organizations. Those other organizations give it to the bottom organization that caused all the trouble. And then George Soros watches that and be like, I never gave this organization, but I did give this other organization that did the deal. But I didn't know. I mean, it's like the mafia. It's a perfect representation of a criminal crime organization that rules in impunity because they're like, oh, and that's why Donald Trump is talking about RICO, right? Because, and again, we saw P. Diddy charged with RICO, lots of prosecutors have a lot of leeway with RICO to do kind of anything and everything that they want, which the left will be using as a way of saying, no, look, they're just trying to hurt our institutions here. Now, if your institutions are propped up by a billionaire, we should at least know that it is. And a lot of these organizations work with very kind of shadowy, secretive type of ways and organizations. I think we should at least know, hey, this message has been sponsored by George Soros. You know who sponsors this message? You! Buying a t-shirt on thebestpokershirts.com. We got women's t-shirts, we got male t-shirts, we got all the great t-shirts. Get them now. And even if you're not even trying to purchase any type of shirts, just scrolling through will make you laugh. I love you guys. I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for you guys purchasing t-shirts. There's no George Soros money here, mofo. All right? You're the George Soros. I'm going to see if I'm probably going to get dinged for even talking about George Soros. We'll see. We'll see how this video does. Share it so it gets out there to the general public. I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for you guys watching, subscribing, and this is why I love you guys. Stay tuned for more beautiful and amazing human beings all here exclusively on youtube.com/WeAreChange.